So we're heading into the crux of the project here. Really, what it kind of I think comes down to in many ways, although the other questions are certainly valuable. This I think is the meat and potatoes of it. A detailed scope and sequence of your program for an entire school year, complete with targeted expectations, curricular expectations. I guess what I'm going to refer you to is a timeline that I have attached onto this Prezi here. You'll see a web link that you should be able to click, and you might even be able to follow along as I kind of talk about this. I'm also going to be trying to include in some of the written resources that we've had throughout the early literacy program here. First off, I think that the main topics, ideas, attitudes that we're going to be using are kind of essentially straight from the balanced literacy approach to learning. So we're looking at our reading, writing, oral, and media are basically the four main components that we're going to be exploring in that. Starting off with the curriculum, just to kind of give an overview, as most of the curriculum is very broad. It's very broad, sweeping comments where we can pretty much marry in what we want to do. Teachers, we have a lot of creativity, a lot of leniency with where we can actually fit in some of these curricular expectations. And we discuss that inside the Blackboard posts as well, how sometimes the written documents, things like the early reading strategies, even when we're looking at the expectations themselves, as I'm going to do with the Nunavut curriculum here, we can see that, yeah, we can fit this into a wide range of activities that we do throughout the year. The first is discover and explore, and being able to describe personal observations, experiences, and feelings. And that really kind of comes down orally first, and then we're going to go into, as we develop vocabulary, as we develop the skills and ideas to be able to express ourselves. Do we like, do we not like, at the simplest form. And then moving on from that to be able to write a little bit more creatively, to be able to read and experience, well, what are they feeling, what are the experiences that are going on there, to be able to empathize, I think is a major component of this. Being able to examine how new ideas and experiences connect to prior knowledge and experience. Well, again, very interesting being up here in the north. That some of these students, it's often taken for granted what we know in the south. That up here, it's a very, very different world, and so this is something that is a challenge for a lot of away teachers. Being able to find out what these students like to do, what they do on an after-school basis, being able to connect with some of these experiences. Some of the experiences they have are really quite traumatic. Quite often they know people who have committed suicide. There's a lot of abuse that happens inside the community. There's a lot of violence that goes on, a lot of social economical challenges that they're faced with, and so they're bringing in a very different background than, I mean, certainly in the South. I'm sure this unfortunately happens as well, but some of these experiences can be rather negative. And positive experiences, even so, like taking something for granted, like reading the book The Lorax by Dr. Seuss. We're seeing truffula trees, and of course up here in the community, what's a tree? You know, they have an understanding of what a tree is, but I mean, many of them who haven't been away to Ottawa or to any of the other places outside of Baffin Island, they've never seen a tree. So that's something that we have to keep in mind. So trying to connect these experiences with them. As we look, using strategies and cues to make connections to prior knowledges and personal strategies. Setting a purpose for listening, like trying to actually identify why we're doing something. So we're going to listen because so-and-so has a way of doing something, or maybe they have an idea that can help you out, or even just because it's polite and socially respectable to listen to someone else when they're speaking. Being able to choose their own variety, or from a variety of print, oral, and other media text from genres. Now, these students, they have a very limited book selection up here, but these genres do fit in. There is some graphic novels that they have, which I very much like to see in the visual components. Like there was James Bicker's The Young and the Graphic novel included this in our early literacy, and I very much like graphic novels. I find that that visual element is something that just really engages the kids. And a story can be told through pictures, and so even a very low-level reader is able to kind of keep up with the class in that way. I also like Brian Kennedy and his visual literacy and why we need it. Again, I think that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and that really can kind of engage the students in a captivating way, especially when they're seeing new things, that they can almost look at that and question, what is that? It's like looking at a strange alien world in some cases when we're looking at some simple videos from different places around the world. Again, things that I would take completely for granted seem to be enthralling to some of the kids. So having them be able to choose what they like and know why they want to do that. Quite often when we go to the library, they just kind of grab a book because it's a book. But now we're starting to get into interests and start to see that the boys like the books on wolves or on hunting, or they like to show me the graphic pictures of a seal being cut up and eaten. The girls have a bit more of a kind of wider base. Quite often they're looking at actually almost home ec style, kind of following a more traditional, so books that would involve girl heroine roles or cooking, or very different, almost softer, well, very much softer sort of ideas and concepts in there. Being able to recognize and distinguish features in a variety of forms is
It's 7 o'clock.
Sorry about that. Such as puppet plays, dramatizations, visual arts, personal narratives. And this is something that we can certainly connect in. I'm a big fan of puppet plays, being able to hear someone's story in a narrative, make-believe stories, real stories. The curriculum, when it comes down to writing and sharing personal knowledge, or even just kind of expressing it orally, using questioning to determine personal knowledge of a topic and identify information needs. So asking questions is right in the curriculum. It's not very broad. Record and share personal knowledge on the topic. Again, there's so much breadth that we can use with that. Generate and contribute ideas on a particular topic, oral, written, and visual. So picking a theme and having the students develop into it. What we're seeing in this particular curriculum document anyway is that it is very, very flexible and very adaptable, especially to the cross-curricular expectations. So if we're studying magnets in science, we can bring that out through literacy. We can write our own stories about magnets. We can look at the world and show how the world is magnetic. We can show graphic images. We can put iron filings underneath a piece of paper and draw a magnet around on it, so it looks like a little furry iron filing bug is moving around. Identify strengths and areas of enhancements of own writing or creations through sharing with others in various ways. Paired sharing is something that I'm working on with the kids, with them being able to come up with their own ideas. It also hits the expectations of being able to work in small groups. I think that this is more of a challenge at this time. It's almost like there's a self-editing process that also goes through there. And this is starting to happen as we cover certain skills within the literacy development. So are they able to see spaces between their words, getting them to correct themselves and kind of move on in that way. Which is really interesting because it's almost like it's in one ear and out the other, it seems, and then they completely surprise you, which which is pretty neat. Edit for complete sentences, and that's something. So definitely building on a sentence structure, and that's an important part of this program here. So being able to edit does the sentence have an idea? Does it have a capital? Does it have a period? Is there spaces between the words? Are we using the correct tense, correct spelling in some of these cases? Are we being able to express the idea that we want to within that sentence? I go co-op, for example, is a very common sentence here. The co-op is a store. I go co-op. So being able to say, I went to the co-op, or I am going to the co-op. He is going to the co-op. Making sure that we include those articles and connections. Even reasoning why. Well, why are you going to the co-op? Is it going to take you a long time? Where is the co-op? What are you going to get at the co-op? What are you going to do at the co-op? Are you going to see someone at the co-op? Having them be able to build on these ideas and correct sentences, full sentences. Using spelling patterns and different strategies and resources to be able to get these ideas. One thing I like them to do is if they find a word and they don't know what that is, that they can reproduce it inside Google, and the image that comes up can give them an understanding of what that is. Aquarium was a word that came up, and the students typing it into Google were able to see suddenly there's all these pictures of aquariums that come up. Now, of course, there's fish, but they get this idea that, oh, an aquarium is some kind of container that holds fish. Perfect. Great. Love it. And that's something that they're able to do on their own. Now, sometimes it's hit or miss with that, but using these different resources to be able to kind of work with that. Present information ideas on a topic to engage a familiar audience. Use pre-established plan. Using print and non-print aids to enhance presentation. Now, this is really kind of a developmental. So I like graphic organizers inside the class, and so being able to model and show them the graphic organizer, how we can brainstorm ideas, and then being able to do a draft and then going through into a final, as well as augmenting the text with some sort of image, be it downloaded or whether it be created or whether it be a mix of two, being able to download an image and adjust it and change it on your own. And then cooperating in small groups, so there's this group connection that happens in here as well. And that's actually extremely important in a community like this, being able to share respectfully, being able to contribute but feel worthy at the same time. Unfortunately, bullying is a huge component inside some of these classrooms, and when I first walked in, I definitely saw that here. But being able to get the students to work together and not tolerating situations where students aren't being respectful to each other really helps provide a voice for the students. But seeing how they interact and being able to express themselves, even if it comes out in their first language first and then it's getting translated, that's fine with me as well. So these curricular expectations, as I work through, what I've done is I've kind of placed the ideas of what I think is going to happen throughout the school year. I haven't married the specific curricular expectations with that at this time. It's just kind of like there's an overview of what they are, but certainly they are all linked to it. Within the first days of school, what we're going to be seeing is that there's going to be a kind of a diagnostic. So within the first week of school, the first running records are going to be trying to get done to see what level of reading that they're at. We're going to be seeing what, using games such as, what sound does this letter make? Just using simple flashcards and games to go around where the kids can participate, using board running skills. So if I say a sound, buh, I'll have two teams, two kids will race up to the boards and write the letter buh down, the letter B down. And so these sort of things, just to kind of engage them, but also doing anecdotal records while we're going through, as well as more formal assessments in the sense that I can actually give them a sheet of paper and ask them to spell a word out or sound it out, or to, here's a questionnaire, simple things like, can you print your name? Can you, tell me how old you are, where you live? Being able to see what kind of interaction they have with that written text. Using the media, how comfortable do they feel? Can you navigate on a computer? Can you be able to type something into the computer? So the diagnostic stage is really kind of going on. One thing that's introduced is the sharing circle, is being able to have that community development, so being able to share ideas. This is something that we're coming back to quite regularly. So it's a spot where we can sit as a classroom and be able to discuss about things and be able to gain ideas from other people and be able to share our own ideas. And I think that that's very important for developing that that oral base for the students. It also, again, kind of goes back into that there's a bit of a play-based learning that goes in there, where they're having fun and they're able to share and joke and talk, and we can make we can make small oral games, chants, songs, to be able to kind of reinforce some of the learning that we're actually doing. A scaffolded process of the balanced literacy program. So when we're looking at reading, writing, specifically, I guess, reading and writing, for like doing the read alouds is something that I find extraordinarily beneficial to the kids. So reading is something I do every day with the kids. So sitting them in the circle and being able to engage them with a book. Where's the title? Who's the author? How do we read from left to right? Being able to follow the words along. Now at this stage it really is just kind of showing a picture, reading the text, but interacting with them on a regular basis. What do you think this is? What's the story about? What do you think is going to happen? Would you feel this way? Again, to refer back to Dr. Seuss, we're engaging with the truffula fruits from the brown barbaloots that are eating them, and saying, what does a truffula fruit taste like, and having them imagine those those creative elements, from peanut butter gum to, I think one of the kids was saying, zombie flesh. I would prefer it not to taste like that, but the durian fruit might be pretty close to truffula fruit in that way. So having them kind of come up with this creative interaction with the read alouds. The read aloud's going to move on into shared and guided reading sessions. The guided reading is something that again, every day in small groups the students are doing. Now this is based upon their leveled readers. So the guided reading session would look like they're coming into the classroom, they're sitting down with their little leveled reader, and we're going to be engaging about some of the pictures that are there. All the kids have the same books, and we're going to go through, we're going to read it as a group together. Any words that they're getting stuck on, we're sounding that out. We're having the kids read components of it as they go, so maybe one page, and as we go through, and helping to assist that. As we move on into shared reading, we're having more of them participating. So I guess it's even before guided reading, where they're having this shared component, where there might be a choral or high frequency words that they're using, that they're able to see and participate with that. So often using the smart board and having whole group instruction in many ways is a good way to be able to do that. If there's one-on-one, being able to work with a student in a shared reading process that goes through. Some students who are much higher at class levels, and some students who are lower, what we're finding is that using an STA or an SST, a technical person who's able to help with remedial reading. I have a small group that goes off with them, and they're able to spend more time and focus in that smaller group, just focusing on some of these needs. The final stage is going to be independent reading, and I think that's something that these students are able to do quite rapidly, even if they're at a level 1 reader, is being able to sit down and read at their level. Now if there's a word that challenges them, to try and help them out sounding it out, or just kind of going over that with them in their guided reading session, so they can go back to these books and practice reading back and forth. And once they're at a certain level, so if they're at level 3, they can read anything from a level 3, 2, or 1. Wouldn't recommend them reading much higher than that, unless it's just an interest to kind of take a look at the pictures or things, because I don't want them becoming frustrated and feeling that they don't have value from the book because they're not able to connect with the content. The writing instruction is very similar in that, and a phonetic development is going to begin very earlier on in the first stages of the week of the month of September, when they come back. And again, this is partly through the diagnostics to see how the students are doing and how they are developing, being able to move through systematically. So creating a word roll with their high frequency words that they already know, I think can help out. And I'm developing some different kind of, like I want to do a flip book where they're able to do high frequency words and create sentences to help them basically be able to write in or read in their own repetitive patterns. So he is, she is, they are, we are, you are, I am, and then that would be on one flip section, and then the next flip section might be simply running, singing, dancing, reading. So being able to build a vocabulary on a little loop and tie kind of flip card thing, so that they can add in new vocabulary words to it. I find that word walls are great, but they're not really used all that much, and they take up a lot of valuable real estate inside the classroom. So although there's this big thing for word walls, I would almost rather have the kids have these small kind of almost like hook and key type type dictionary, if you will, where all the words they can look and color coded for pronouns, nouns, adjectives, verbs, connecting in with that and having them engage with it regularly. So using that to help them model their reading, so they can create their own little stories out of it, or help them even with the writing. As it's already print, they could actually just copy down the print, but the idea is they're being able to flip. Oh, I got this idea. Here's the sentence. There's a complete sentence. It's modeled. Now I'm going to write it down. So I have this idea of maybe kind of word wall. I don't know, I walk into a classroom and honestly it looks pretty crowded with all these words, and talking with the other teachers, they don't really seem to really use them all that much, or maybe they're not used as effectively. Again, with their phonics, we're going to be looking at a pretty systematic structure there. Starting off with consonants, short vowel sounds, moving into long vowel sounds, using models with the combination with the letter E, so marrying that in. Decoding skills, sounding out, moving into more complicated blendings of words, going into syllables. How many syllables does the word have? In a natural progression, so that the students are able to build on their skills and directly use it. Both are playing. These are almost all in-game activities, but they're able to use these words in context almost right away, and I think that is important as well. So as we're looking at, say, some of the themes that come up, Thanksgiving and Halloween, Remembrance Day, the holidays, Easter, Valentine's Day, some of these sorts, even as the seasons change, being able to use the vocabulary that we're having in there and being able to create that, connect that, so that we're taking what they already know, using that to establish the foundation. So even their names, here's your name, here's the vowels, here's the consonants, these are the sounds, and drawing that out, so able to make a realistic and meaningful connection through that. For writing, again, early on, trying to get the brainstorming writing, and a lot of this, I think, in the early would be kind of shared writing. So we're coming up with ideas. So I might, on a board, have a graphic organizer, and we're going to be brainstorming. I'm going to show them that process of brainstorming and writing down these words. They may directly copy down those words and add them into the vocabulary list. Be able to practice that, showing how we can create a story. We did one about ghosts when students were interested in ghosts. So I said, okay, you're going to tell me the story, and I'm going to be the pen. And so they basically kind of gave me a dictation, and I was able to prompt them with some questions and that, and we came up with a very nice story. And they're quite pleased with work like that, so they're able to add those sort of things into it. Try not to make this too long. We'll move along quickly. Writing, being able to take ideas, so pictures, so they're moving from pictures and adding into in with their words. I find that this is a great way. So again, with the themed workings, they're going to be moving from creating pictures and ideas and just kind of writing very basic, simple ideas with it. They moving on into sentence structure. So later in October, we're going into sentence structure, verbs ending with ing, again using one of these flip chart type things to be able to assist with them being able to see it and reproduce it quite quickly. Being able to write for a specific audience, so Remembrance Day letters is going to be one where we're going to do some shared reading or shared writing and guided writing processes to be able to create a letter to a family who maybe lost someone in the war, or just to say thank you for the efforts that they did. Using different tenses as we move on to December, we're going to be looking at future and past tenses. So we can start to make those kind of connections and being able to talk in those terms. using proper sentence structure. So coming back in January, we're really gonna, the holidays, the kids are gonna go crazy. They're gonna forget some stuff, but coming back in and developing on that. So using the capitals, using the periods, using spaces, making sure that we have the elements, the ideas, building on those. Um, Building on our vocabulary and our meaning is going to be going on throughout February, right through to June. Pretty much the whole year, we're building on vocabulary. And then as we coming down closer towards April and that last part of the semester, we're really kind of focusing on some of the more specifics. So the beginning, the middle, and end, drawing that out, trying to get them to both identify with inside the stories and be able to reproduce that with inside their own creations. Finally, at the coming down into June, what I'd like them to do is to create a final piece, either working together with a group or that, but where they go through the whole process of being able to brainstorm, to create a draft, to edit the draft, to making a second copy, adding to that second copy, editing that second copy, and then making a final product. And that final product could be on the computer, it could be a play, it could be something, but creating this final product where you can see the development of their ideas. So they're systematically going through that process. Who am I writing for? What ideas do I have? What vocabulary do I have? How can I present this? What is the proper sentence structure? What is the editing? My peers are helping me out. And so it's kind of a collection, a collaboration of all the things that we've been learning throughout the entire year. Now, media is another component that we have in here. Now, the internet is up and down like a yo-yo here, so unfortunately some of the components are hit and miss at times. But essentially I want them to be able to use media in a way that they feel comfortable to be able to augment some of their creativity. So whether it's creating images on the computer by drawing it with mouse and then adding text to it, using a Comic Life to be able to screenshot, doing things on Photo Booth, being able to capture images and then being able to fit them into comic sections to create their own elements, to show them that it's very easy and very quick, that they can get these almost instant gratification to print out in color and very high quality type stuff. A thing that we did recently in our health was creating a menu, and Health Canada has a great little activity where the kids can get to choose what foods that they like to do from or eat from each different group, and at the end they get to produce this. Well, here's your menu. This is what you typically like to eat, and this is what you like to do, and the kids love it. And when the parents came in on parent-teacher night, that was something that impressed them. It's like, wow, this is a pretty professional looking document that my child made. So that's pretty important. Now. Introducing each components. Now again, this is where the timeline's really going to kind of show this, because it's kind of hard to kind of go one section to one section. But at the beginning of the year, we're chunking, we're kind of getting these small sections and adding together and building on them. And through this process, we're also going to be doing quite a bit of assessment that goes through. Some of the assessment strategies that we have, rubric, being able to look very basically. We can create a rubric, as you see on this in this presentation. There's the Ontario Ministry rubric from languages grade 1 to 8, page 2021. And they have those up there, and that's a very generic rubric where we're looking at the different components with inside. So a rubric can be very beneficial. Running records is something that I want to do several times a year, just to make sure that we're at the correct level reader for the kids. So we're looking at the start of the year, probably in November, before we're having report cards go out then. We're going to be looking closer to January, maybe February-ish, and then we're looking at April, and then at least once before they end up in June, preferably closer to the end of the year, so we have a very accurate assessment of going into the next year where the kids are doing their reading. Hearing, oral sound, dictations, having them be able to reproduce a sound, writing in words, how many words can they write in a certain period of time, word tests, sight words, comprehension strategies, feeling strategies. So, what is the main idea in the story? Where are they going? Having these sort of things, and then producing works. So can they use a graphic organizer? Will they create their own graphic organizer? Can they produce a draft? Are they doing this? And just being able to see and engage with the students that way. Make sure I hit all these components. What will I do in September? Or what would it look like and feel like for my students? I think walking into the class, it's going to be bare. It's going to be very bare. I do not prescribe to a lot of clutter on the walls. I do prescribe to the idea that the students are going to build this classroom themselves. The available books that we have for the reading levels, we certainly have them in the class. A nice, friendly reading nook with a light, a carpet, a blanket, and a few stuffed animals and some puppets that they can engage with. Colorful, friendly, bright, but not too bright. Like actually, I like to use softer lighting, so I have a table lamp over here that I can turn on. I have a dimmable lamp and a few other lamps so that we can, if we need to, we can kind of isolate the room as per lighting. I think lighting is a big thing that kind of gets missed out for mood. But it's going to look, again, I say very bare. I don't want to distract the students with a lot of extras that go on. What I do want is for them to be able to see what we're doing placed on the wall when we're doing it. So if we're doing proper sentence structure, we're going to have that up on the wall. I want them to display their chosen pieces of work up on the wall. When we're doing a theme, I want them, that theme is going to be going up, and that's going to get changed fairly regularly. So every few maybe every 2-3 weeks, as they produce new works and that's coming out, the old works are getting placed into a portfolio, assessed, put into a portfolio, and they get to keep that, and new works are being put up on the wall. Starting off in September, very ground basic levels with coming in for themes is going to be, the changing seasons, welcome back to school, ideas about reading, writing, their expectations, my expectations, their hopes, their dreams, the future, what they want out of school, why they're here, really connecting with those reasons, what's going on in the community at that time, whether there's a hunting or fishing season happening. Moving into December, what that's going to look like, the classroom's going to be filled. It's going to have a lot more books. Hopefully, as each year we collect more and more, the walls are going to be filled with their activities, their themed activities. So maybe they'll have writing letters to, one of the ideas is writing letters to people around the world, or writing a story about caring or sharing, giving the kind of holiday themes, and having that put up there, as well as pictures, images, artwork that they've done that's connecting into there, our science, our languages that they're using in there, our math, having the tactile, the manipulatives, our different centers that we have set up around the room. So for literacy, a Take It to Your Seat center, I find are great little tools that are produced by Scholastics. Having little shoe boxes where they have different activities that they can do and to explore the learning themselves. So it's not a whole class instruction sitting there, but you can actually, okay, we're going to the center, this is what you're going to do given that instruction. So the students know their flow, they know the other students, they know how to interact, they know the rules of the classroom. Those have been set up. Focus on student learning, again, is well, it's kind of diverse. They're going through basically taking whatever skills they're coming in with and building on that in a foundational process, in a playful, easy way, with with a mixed approach, using both play-based and skills-based learning in there. Certainly not doing just skill and drill all the time, to have that kind of connection in there. Having fun in the classroom, like Scully and Roberts with phonics, using expository writing, reading alouds, having fun with it. For engaging children with WH questions, building on those sort of things, using Trivet and Dunce, children's active participation in reading and storytelling. Using technology, like in the beginning we're going to have the computer there. I want the students to be using the computer. We have access to a computer lab 3 times a week, where every student gets it, to be able to use that not just for typing skills, certainly not just for video games, but having these interactive learning opportunities for them to be able to explore. And we do class explorations in that, and that kind of goes on with Savage, Urton, and Abrami, Hips, and Komaski, and Lirup, if I'm pronouncing that right, and their Abracadabra, like the effectiveness of using computers and education, how we can do this to further develop ourselves, or develop the class rather. Making sure that what we're doing, we're using in context. Pasiga and Hoffman Teal in 2011, the National Early Literacy, Preschool Literacy Instruction, using the National Early Literacy Panel to explore how we should be using or instructing our students to have a contextual base. There's real meaning to what they're learning. So essentially that's the program there. Hopefully you're able to take a look at the timeline and be able to see, and this has been a very long exploration of this. I hope that I've hit on most of the main components for that question. I think essentially have fun, build the program, allow the students plenty of opportunity to practice, allow them the time to develop their skills, provide them with the environment and the support to build the skills. Cross-connect the literacy engagement, the vocabulary, model all of these things, become a demonstration of it, and above all, don't inhibit that love of creating or that love of writing. Keeping it playful, I think, is so good. Once that classroom management is established, I think there's a key during that first September, making sure that those kids understand how you can participate with each other, so they're not grabbing the games and hitting each other with them. But once that's established, then you can foster, then you can start to be able to develop those connections, creating an environment that's conducive to learning in a fun way, fun and respectable. I think that's probably the essence of it, that there's all this different variety, that they can express themselves, they have the opportunity to, they can listen to others, and that it's meaningful, and that they actually care about doing that. I think that that's really what the literacy program is about, giving them the skills to be able to do that. So enjoy the timeline and the rest of the presentation.